Long, long ago, a young handsome man settled in a small town called Kotoka. He was known for his colorful Agbada regalia and fancy pointed shoes. He never wore any of his Agbada twice. This was a marvel to the townspeople, as this attire was only worn by the rich and mighty. Even some of the wealthy men could only afford to wear an Agbada on special occasions, but this young man wore an Agbada every day. Soon, the townspeople began to whisper about him. As his collection of Agbada grew, so did his fame. Rumors of his colorful and beautiful Agbada spread far and wide, earning him the nickname the King of Agbada. And as his fame grew, so did the list of his admirers and haters grow. Young women threw themselves at him. Mothers begged him to marry their daughters. Wives cursed their husbands and wished the King of Agbada was their husband. Rumor had it that he was married to 3 beautiful women who lived abroad with their kids. However, no one had ever seen his wives. The older men hated him and swore his wealth was from an unclean source. But the young men admired him and sang his praises. The King of Agbada sleeps all day and only leaves his home at sunset. That is because he stays up all night partying. By the time he emerges from the red-colored gates in front of his house, a crowd will be waiting for him. He would give the young children sweets and treats. The older women would receive a gift of wrapper and rice. As he enters his 504 Mercedes, the crowd would follow him, chanting his praises. He renders help to the old and also extends a hand to the young. He is a cheerful giver and is loved by many. The King of Agbada spends his evenings in a local bar, drinking and making merry with his friends. People came from far and wide to partake of his generosity. This went on for a few years, but one evening the crowd waited and waited, but the King of Agbada didn't open his gates. The next day, the same thing happened. Within days, the number of people at his gates reduced until no one showed up again. Then, rumors began to spread about him. Some said the King of Agbada had become a pauper. Some said his source of money ran out. Within a few weeks, the townspeople forgot about him, and life went on until one day a strong stench filled the neighborhood. The smell was so bad that it brought everyone out of their home. They all wondered where the smell was coming from. The young men walked in different directions, investigating where the smell was coming from. The people found out that the smell was coming from the King of Agbada's house. The women cursed him, certain that he was a ritualist and he had killed one of his victims. The older men rejoiced that the King of Agbada's secret was finally exposed, while the young men who used to make merry with him grabbed sticks and weapons and were ready to make the King of Agbada pay for his sins. The young men jumped over his fence and opened the gate from behind. All the townspeople poured into the compound where the stench was so strong. In their agitated state, they failed to realize that weeds had grown all over the compound. "Where is he? We will kill him today," the young men chanted. They began to open all the doors in the house, but other than cobwebs and rats scurrying by, they didn't see anything. Finally, they opened the king of Agbada's bedroom and found his decomposing corpse on his bed. Unknown to them, the philanthropist had fallen sick and was bedridden for weeks, but no one checked up on him. When he needed help the most, no one showed up for him. No one knew anything about his family or where he came from, so they wrapped up what was left of him and dumped him in a mortuary. The townspeople took what was left of his properties. His fine collection of Agbada was the first to disappear. The furniture in his home was stolen one after the other. The news of his death spread far and wide. One morning, a young, beautifully dressed woman and 3 little girls came into the town. The woman parked her car in front of the king of Agbada's house, and this drew the attention of the townspeople. Out of curiosity, they gathered around her. "Who are you?" they asked. "I am Akin's wife," she responded, but you all know him as the king of Agbada. They were all amazed that the king of Agbada actually had a wife and children. "Where were you all this while?" they asked. The widow sighed and told them her story. Akin and Aisha were happily married and had 3 beautiful daughters. They had a good life and a happy home until Akin's father passed away and left him a large inheritance. Akin's newfound wealth made him realize that he made a mistake marrying Aisha. He didn't want to be tied down by a woman, he told her one morning. He wanted to live his life and enjoy his wealth without the burden of a family. He gave Aisha a huge amount of money and sent her and their children away. Aisha cried and pleaded with him to rethink his decision, but his mind was made up. She wrote him letters every day, but he didn't respond to any of her letters. After a while, Akin moved away from his hometown and relocated to the town of Kotoka. Aisha heard about his death from her cousin, who works at the mortuary where his body was taken to. Aisha entered the gate, which was ajar. She entered each of the rooms with a heavy heart. When she got into Akin's bedroom, she shook her head in pity because rodents had taken over the place. She saw an envelope in the empty bed frame. The mattress had been stolen by the townspeople. Aisha reached for the envelope and opened it, and the letter slipped out. Akin had written her a letter, but he had no one to post it for him. In his final days, Akin realized his mistake and desperately wanted to reunite with his family. He realized that family was everything. Akin got the fame and life he wanted. He had many friends, but he died with no one by his side.